I am Vihan Sharma, Chief Revenue Officer of LiveRamp. Really excited to be part of this session with some of the brightest minds of our industry. What we are going to cover in the next 30 minutes is we're going to look at the consumer change through AI. We're going to think about collaboration and how collaboration helps us have a common language to navigate this future world. And finally, we are going to talk about some advice. We are going to seek advice on what we should be doing every day to be prepared for this future. With that, let us start with some intros with a twist. What I'm going to ask the panelists here is to actually help us look at what they have seen in their, how do you call it, LLMs, or look at the prompt history and tell us something about them. So Shannon, maybe we start with you.
Sure. As we prepared for this, I actually did go back to all of my LLMs, I'm using multiples, and asked them what they would say about me. And I think I realized something rather interesting. I am a tinkerer. I am. I like to know how things work. I like to understand how the dots get connected. I like to understand how the tools work. I like to know how things work. Those books that we had as kids, like How Things Are Made, I had all of those books. I was obsessed with them. And I am that same person at work that I am in my personal life as well. And my LLMs know that, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. Lauren?
Good morning. My name is Lauren Gruski, and I have the pleasure of leading the Chase Media Solutions Connected Commerce business. When I looked at what my LLMs was saying about me over the last few weeks, there were 3 key themes, and I will say it was very nice to me. So the first is I'm a natural-born pioneer. I love to create in the white space. Second thing is that relationships really matter to me, and I think I'm so grateful every day for this industry, for the people that I get to work with professionally who have also become my best friends, and also for the close personal relationships that I have. And then the third thing is personal growth and self-reflection. I am completely committed to continuing to grow and to show up and take responsibility for life.
Very cool. Awesome. May?
May Wong. I'm head of emerging technology for TurboTax. So, Vihan, I don't know if you've heard, it's tax season. So when I did ask my normal chat and even Gemini, really boring, dashboards. So I actually went to my custom GPT that I built, and it told me I was the DCR queen. Because I've stood up so many of them in the past several months.
Yeah, we know that. So I think let's start with setting the scene. The customer is changing. I think we all as consumers are using these new surfaces very differently than what we have done in the past. And so the traditional kind of funnel that we all work through is going to be disintermediated, right? So are we going to go from a world where we are talking to people to actually going and negotiating with their agents, right? So the first question, Shannon, is for you. I know you are kind of leading the IAB Tech Lab. How are you thinking about using GM and the brand in this new agentic ecosystem?
Yeah, and I apologize. I didn't officially say I'm Shannon Reed. I'm the Global Chief Media Officer for General Motors, for anyone that I don't know in the room. I should have actually introduced myself. Not leading the tech lab, that is Tony's job. I am not taking Tony's job in any way, shape, or form, but I am honored to have joined the board recently and to be a part of that and to be one of the first, I think the first brand marketer to be on the board of the tech lab, which is an amazing opportunity because it is where a lot of the standards and languages that we use as an industry get set, which is a true honor. Look, you're right. The consumer journey is changing. We can write consumer roadmaps and journeys and funnels all day long. How many different versions of the consumer funnel have you all seen in your careers? Who remembers the McKinsey loop? Like every time we turn around, there's a new consumer journey. I feel like every time we have an innovation in this industry, somebody says, the consumer journey has changed fundamentally. Yes, it has. It's going to continue to change. How consumers decide to get information, how they get information, how information is surfaced to them constantly changes for revenue purposes, for consumer better behavior purposes, for economic purposes, et cetera. I think our job as marketers is to always stay on the front edge of those changes and to make sure that we have the opportunity to be there where the consumer needs us. So I look at it this way. My job is to make sure that we create great consumer experiences with media as these agents are coming into play, you're absolutely right. I am no longer just marketing to the consumer solution. I also have to make sure that I'm marketing to the agent's needs. And that does fundamentally change the amount of content that we need to produce. It changes how we show up in certain places. It changes a little bit about where we think our content is showing and the spaces and places that we engage on behalf of our consumers. Because the same way that agents find us is often quite similar to how consumers are finding us as well. So the two actually work very cohesively.
So content is king.
Content is king again.
Again. This question to you, I mean, when we talk to you, you talk a lot about clickless media.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about how you were thinking of navigating the new media landscape.
Yeah, so clickless. So if we look over the past, I would say 5 years, right? Really, the investments in media have gone to what we consider and call clickless, because there's no action taken by the consumer. I mean, it's really CTV, OLV. And actually look at search. How fabulous is it now that we are going clickless there? And AI really narrows our options for us. That's what it's doing for the consumer. But however, AI doesn't make the decision, right? The final decision. The customer does. And so that's when I think of Shannon, thank you for doing your job well, of brand, right? Of, hey, we have to still use our brand and make sure, hey, what are we doing to really build the trust, kind of that emotional connection? I would say, for tax as well, the confidence, because that's what gets us to that final decision on conversion.
Awesome. So talking about conversions, Lauren, you are the one who actually sees every single conversion which is happening in the ecosystem. How do you think about using this unique signal truth in this new world?
Yeah, well, I think what's really interesting is that AI is only as good as the signals that we feed it. And so for years in the industry, we've made decisions and optimized around proxies and clicks and modeled signals. And the most honest signal is the transaction, the verified transaction, which at Chase, I'm very excited and proud that we are the largest consumer bank in the US. We are the largest business bank in the US. So we have a very large scale and view of the consumer based on all of the transactions they have in their lives, not just the ones that happen within a platform or within a retailer or within a subscription. We see everything. And so that becomes really valuable when you think about informing AI based on how a consumer chooses to spend their money. And so I get really excited about the idea that we can actually train AI based on verified transactions, not just marketing signals. So that becomes really exciting as we move into a future world where the human element is still going to matter inside of all that we do. So the trust that also that verified transaction and that relationship with the consumer builds is going to become even more meaningful in the AI models that we have.
So I think if I can conclude is be customer focused, like number one. Have a content strategy because you need to be able to engage with the consumer in a new way, and always be thinking about improving the customer journey, right? So thinking about this, like when we think of collaboration and this new AI world, we want to be able to go and say, have a common language, right? We know you mentioned yourself as DCR queen, and at LiveRamp, we know that you are one of, or you are the person who is using the most clean rooms in the ecosystem to actually build an intelligent system for media orchestration, right? So tell us how this collaboration with publishers, media owners is going to thrive in the new AI world.
Well, I would say I'm just getting started because let's face it, from an industry, I think there's some standards that we have to kind of still set up. I think, data portability is probably one of my biggest angsts, and interoperability as well, right? Because right now, it's still full of walled gardens, and even our own platforms. Usually platforms only care about their own platform. And technology partners as well, right? And so it comes down to where I see is until we actually can work really together with these standards, we're not really able to even track and journey out a customer flow, it's very, very fragmented. So I would say that we probably as an industry need to think about that first.
So fragmentation is an issue. I know
Biggest issue, yeah.
biggest issue. Shannon, you talk about interoperability. Like, tell us more how we should think about this new world where interoperability matters in a world where the decision maybe is a bit removed from the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, May said it really well. Like, at the end of the day, the walled gardens have created an issue for us to be able to understand and see the consumer journey across every step of the puzzle. So I think about it this way, a little bit of GM history here, or understanding of the auto industry, if you're not familiar with it. About 5% of the US population buys a new car in any given year. That's a very small number. So what is that? Maybe 14, 15, 16 million people, depending on how many adults we have. That's not a lot of people. Right? Every impression that I spend beyond those people that are buying a new car in any given year is potentially a wasted impression. Now, that's not true. It's 2 or 3 years of a cycle, and you have people who start to daydream about the opportunity to buy a car, and you want to play with it and build it, et cetera. So I need to be in your mindset much longer. So my mission every day is driving unique reach. I need to get to as many of those people individually and separately every single time, all day long, 52 weeks a year. Here's the challenge. The challenge is I can do unique reach on a walled garden platform, and then on a second walled garden platform, and then on a third walled garden platform, and then on the open web, and then a little bit sort of in TV if I'm doing CTV and addressable TV, maybe. But all of that has the potential to be overlaps in a tremendous amount of frequencies. So I'll give a specific example in one of our campaigns, looking at one of our local campaign programs with a dealer program, and then our national program. We realized that in one market, we were doing 15x frequency per week on the audience that we were trying to reach. Now, I know you all loved the Hummer push a button campaign from the NFL. You're welcome.
Bravo.
Thank you. But you maybe felt like you saw it a few too many times. Now, that was on purpose. It was a launch. We wanted to make sure that it was truly top of mind for you. And now I know you're all going to go out and buy the Hummer because it's an amazing vehicle. But the reality is we probably overfrequencied. And the challenge of overfrequency in a market means that if I'm overfrequencing a small set of consumers, if I'm only getting to 60% reach at 15x, how do I reduce that and get to 70, 80% reach at less times per? And maybe it's about saving money, but honestly, it's not as much about saving money as it is about getting to all of those unique opportunities to reach customers.
So interoperability is like breaking down silos.
It breaks down those silos.
Yeah.
It allows us to bring the data together, and it allows us to better understand exactly how consumers are seeing us. At the end of the day, you don't want to be the consumer that is annoyed by 5 to 10x frequency by things. That's actually creating a poor consumer experience at the other side of it. You get annoyed by those ads. And I'm sure we all have that experience. Please stop targeting me.
But
Yeah.
you know, until we actually deal with real collaboration, I guarantee you, myself included, I've seen the data now, deterministic, is half of us are probably doing that to our consumer.
Absolutely.
Let's face it. And
Yeah.
so to allow us to really deliver for the consumer, we can't do that until this happens.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think one of the things we focus on as an industry is like kind of building out these standards. And I think, Lauren, transactions are actually core to building any standards. Like, how would you think about using the signals you have to bring something more coherent to the industry?
Sure. I think a few things just to set the stage around reducing the reliance on walled gardens is that walled gardens see fragments. And then that fragmented data creates fragmented decisions. And fragmented decisions create inefficiencies of spend. And so when we can look at open collaboration and use the transaction data, which is the holy grail, we're all trying to drive growth, we're all trying to drive a sale or a subscription or a purchase preference. And when we can use that inside of collaborative data models, that's where we start to get to what I believe, in addition to portability and interoperability, is neutral measurement.
Yes.
And what I like to call a transaction spine across all of the ways that we're investing in media, and that ultimately we're adding value for the consumer. And so with that closed loop measurement, with cross-channel insight to be able to make better decisions, to understand the consumer better, I see a world where we start to work as partners instead of as competitors, and that's when the consumer wins.
That's awesome. So in this world, like collaboration is about building a common language, breaking down silos, and ensuring that the consumer actually has the best experience when we come together as an industry versus the way we are doing things today, which is in silos.
Yeah, and I just will end the note that I think we also need industry champions. I'm going to call out.
I think we have 3 of them here.
But even within our pubs, right? I mean, I'll call out, you know, Dan, TikTok, are you out there? I mean, when I think of a champion, I think of like someone who is agnostic, is not really thinking, oh, what can just TikTok get out of it? But kind of understanding, hey, I want to see what we can do to actually start changing this industry. And so when we locate kind of a gang of those champions, and please, I know they're in this room, be okay with that, because that's the only way we're going to win.
Yeah. I'm going to build on that. And I'm going to say thank you to LiveRamp. Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Vihan. And thank you, Nick Nardone, who have been incredible. And I'm just going to actually ask us to celebrate LiveRamp, who have just been incredible partners as working at a financial institution, helping us pioneer the next wave of data collaboration. So I would be remiss if I left the stage and didn't say thank you.
Well, thank you for the partnership, Lauren. I think the next question is really, as individuals, when we get up tomorrow, what should we be doing to be prepared for this AI-first world? So I'll start with you, Lauren.
Great. Look, I think in some ways, data collaboration is, 3 things must happen. Interoperability is got to become the norm. That's just what we have to move to as an industry. We need to have shared taxonomies. Mm-hmm. We need to have AI-readable data structures. That's going to become really, really, really important. And as I mentioned before, we need common measurement frameworks. I believe that we have to think about the early days of the internet when we had to get to common protocols. That's what accelerated our ability to leverage the internet. And I think we're there right now. We just need those same common protocols within AI and within data collaboration that will help us get there. And companies that lead us there are the ones that are going to embrace collaboration, not just as a tactic, but as an operating system. And that will allow us to essentially make sure that we not just improve marketing, but we improve the entire customer experience.
Yep. Yeah. May, the same question to you.
Oh, goodness. Ecosystem, blah, blah, blah. That's just true. But I want to be very clear. I feel that the opportunity is it's not more data. Who needs more data and more integration? Because I think the industry has done that really well. We need to figure out then how does that data work and which deterministic data, like your transactions and anything out of the clean rooms, is actually the right data. And again, how does that work together? Not more data, please.
Okay.
So less data, less
the
data.
Right data.
The right data.
The right data.
And Shannon, you are like really focused on the whole campaign journey.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of people here who are part of this ecosystem. Like how should they be thinking about making your life better?
Yeah, oh, thank you. Please make my life better. So 2 things, because I want to build on what these 2 amazing women just said, because it is about that data portability and the right data. Oh my gosh, May, so much, the right data. For anybody who may have seen me on LinkedIn last night, I was on the plane and I had this moment of going back to that Peter Drucker quote of what gets measured gets managed. Everybody remembers that?
Yep.
By the way, that's a misquote. So if you have a minute, not to boost up my LinkedIn, but I did a whole research on where that quote comes from. Not intentionally, I swear, but like I did a whole research on where that quote comes from, and actually the base of the quote is from a really interesting article written, I believe in the 50s, that talks about the fallacy of measuring the wrong things. Mm-hmm. And I think, May, that kind of goes to your point. We don't need more data. We need the right data, and we need to not get stuck in these moments of saying, hey, this is the data point that we want, and we're just going to continue to optimize to that, and not get to the data that we really need in order to truly prove performance. Yeah. Anyway, I go on a tangent. My real point to you on this, because I'll take the consumer marketer's point of view here, we need content. I said it before, content is king. These agents are surfacing content. And so from a brand perspective, I need, yes, my content. I also need all of the other content that's written via our partners. You heard Scott talk about like the agents are reducing the amount, not reducing, but the agents are crawling all of the publisher partners and scraping all of their content and using them. If they don't have the ability to be able to continue to pay for reporters, for people to be in the field, for them to have the safety gear that they need to be in the field, to give us reporting, to be on the ground. I'm thinking of everything that's happening in our world right now, and you can imagine the reporters that are out there bringing those stories to us live. If they don't have the security and the safety gear that they need to be there, we run a risk of not actually having the content that we need as consumers. And that's an extreme example. If I bring it back to the auto industry for a second, I need my auto partners out there talking about why our vehicles are the best vehicles. If somebody wants to, do a study on the prettiest tow hitch, I want to make sure we win the prettiest tow hitch, and then I can use that. And we do have beautiful tow hitches, by the way. I want to make sure that we have that content and we have the ability to surface that content, and that we have third-party authorities being able to write about it at scale. And this ecosystem of agents is reliant on content.
Yeah.
Awesome. One last quick question, rapid fire. I'll start with you, Shannon. AI in 2026, overhyped or just getting started?
Both. Overhyped on the things that we've been able to do already. We've had DCO and machine learning forever. Overhyped on that stuff, we'll do it, it's fine. Just getting started on the infrastructure work, the interoperability, the actual changing of how things connect on the baseline.
Awesome. Lauren, a question for you. What will a human always do better than AI?
Well, I think what's really interesting is that as humans, we will always have feelings and emotions. And so we typically, as humans, when we think about purchases, especially those that are our big purchases, we buy on emotion and we justify on the benefits. So for example, I may go get a new Corvette because when I sit in that car, I feel like a race car driver. And when I get home and pull in the driveway, I'm like, oh, honey, but it gets great gas mileage. And it was a great investment for us.
Yes.
That emotion will not change, even though in a world of AI, it will help inform how some of the decisions we are made.
And
Awesome.
you feel like a badass when you're driving it.
You said it. Yeah, I used race car driver, but
Yeah, totally.
May, so what is the one key outcome you want to see for the industry in the next 12 months?
Oh, 12 months. I think that's too long.
Too long. 6 months.
And beyond, do I only get to choose one? That's a problem as well. But if I had to focus on one, I'm going to kind of bring out my DCR queen out. And I really want speed and AI embedded into my DCRs, one-to-ones, as well as XMI. Because, I've committed the past year, we've stood up probably about 7. And in XMI, we were able to convince a lot of publishers, and we've gotten 15 in there. So the last 30 days, I've shoved in well over $100 million into cross-media intelligence to see what new insights can I get. However, the human side of having to pull out those insights is not an asset to me. We have tax. One day in tax season is equal to a normal marketer's 1 week.
100%.
So when you're talking about 4 days that I have to wait for my insights, that's exactly delaying me by, a month. And so again, AI embedded will compress my insight to action timeline. So please, that's where I need to focus.
So reduce the timelines for execution.
Well, it's more about time as an asset. That's what AI is
Time is value.
asking for, in
Awesome.
the DCR space.
Well, thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you for listening to us.